You're listening to Blossoming Technologist, a podcast for young professionals in tech discovering skills, careers, and tips for being in the tech industry. I'm your host, Marisa, and today we're joined by Chloe Belangia, an executive recruiter and content creator. Based out of San Francisco, Chloe is passionate about helping young professionals find the perfect careers. At the beginning of the pandemic, she started a podcast called The Passages Project, in which she interviewed young professionals about their careers and offered tangible advice to listeners. Now she provides advice to thousands of followers on TikTok and started a LinkedIn group called the Young Professional Career Connects that helps connect young professional job seekers to recruiters. A self-professed diehard LinkedIn fan, Chloe is here today to talk about tips for job searching and how to maximize your LinkedIn to land the perfect role. Chloe, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited.
Awesome. As always, I always like to start with what first got you interested in the tech industry.
I would say what got me the most interested in the tech industry was kind of joining the workforce or growing up at the dawn of social media. So I really saw from an early age how impactful communication mediums via technology were with, whether it was marketing a school club or, connecting friends that I went to summer camp with. I saw right away how impactful technology was and communication technologies were to my experiences and to the ways in which I was able to build communities. So obviously I went to Georgia Tech, which inevitably means that I was interested in technology, but then it all just kind of grew from there. And now in the space that I'm in, it's incredible to be kind of seeing how tech is really at the center of everything. It's very energizing. So yeah.
I'm actually curious. I know because you said you went to Georgia Tech. I know you studied computational media. How did you end up transitioning into marketing? And I know now you're an executive recruiter, but even just the marketing bit is really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I would say it was a blend of kind of nature versus nurture. So I've always been a very intuitive person. I really like leaning into, my quote unquote passions, what lights me up, what gets my heart pounding. And similar to what I had just kind of said, when I was in high school, I was a part of all these organizations, and I noticed how impactful marketing was in moving the needle, whether it was raising money, whether it was recruiting and bringing in new people to be a part of our organization or help our organization, running for campaigns and ensuring that the quote brand of our school was well represented. I saw kind of the early threads of what marketing was. Did I know that was marketing? No, but I leaned into kind of well, this is exciting. I really like working on websites. I really like working on social media. I really like talking to people about why they should join XYZ organization and how it benefits them. And I saw kind of the art and science behind it, and I thought it was really interesting. I chose computational media at Georgia Tech because I knew that technology was going to be so important, and to learn how to code, whether or not I ended up being an engineer, would be impactful, whether it just taught me how to study or introduced me to really interesting people like yourself. So I knew I wanted to tailor my educational path in more of a formal sense towards technology, but I supplemented it by being a part of the marketing club on campus. I added a certificate of marketing. I tried to kind of pitch myself for internships at startups that leaned more on the marketing side, because those weren't necessarily being brought up in the computing school, but the startups that I wanted to work for weren't being brought up in the business school. So I was trying to kind of find that middle ground. So yeah, it was very finding, my own path. There wasn't necessarily a set path for me to follow, but I feel like it's lent itself to a really interesting career that spans the gamut on a bunch of different industries.
Yeah. And now you have all that experience to speak to when you are helping other young professionals in their careers, which I think is so cool to see. Which brings me to whether it's your podcast, empowerment coaching, your TikTok, or your LinkedIn group, what inspires you to help young professionals with their careers?
It really is helping my younger self. It really is the empathy that I feel for, a 19-year-old sitting in their apartment, by themselves, scrolling LinkedIn, having no idea what they're doing, showing up to a career fair or a networking event and feeling that, gut dropping feeling of, oh, I don't know if I belong here. I don't know how to talk about myself. Going into interviews, going into your first day on the job and really feeling disoriented at like, what am I doing here? What is my role? How do I make an impact? Is this the right thing for me? Like those are all questions that I think all of us face, but I definitely faced, especially kind of being at the intersection of so many different industries. I really was not following this cookie cutter path. I tried the consulting interviews. I tried the technical interviews. I tried the design interviews. I tried the marketing interviews. And like, I've sat in those seats and I know what it's like to kind of work on them. And inevitably I found this kind of bespoke path, which I think also lends itself to really being able to look somebody in the eye and be like, whatever it is that you want to do, you are in the driver's seat of that story. It's just about telling that story. And, back to the marketing piece, like knowing who's on the other side of the screen, who are you talking to? What do they care about? What do they value? And bringing that in. And with technology careers, like what's happening in technology? Why do you want to be in technology besides all these TikTokers saying you can make bank? Like there has to be at least one other bullet point as to why you want to be in technology. So I just get really energized seeing that before and after, the devastation and isolation that can come from the job hunting process, especially during the pandemic, but was still present pre-pandemic, and being that bridge or that, middle person, that connector to just show you like, here's what you already have available to you to tell a really impactful story to the right people and land maybe not even in your dream job, but just the right next step for what it is that you want to do. And I get really passionate about it all.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned a lot of this in your TikToks too, where you're like, you sit down with someone, you say, why do you want to do this? You tell people to journal, you tell people to really reflect on why they want something, which I think is so powerful. And a lot of people don't think of that. Cause I know I've been in that too. When graduating college, looking for jobs, I was like, I just need a job. I need to find a job, doesn't matter what it is, and never really took the time to reflect on what I really wanted. Mm-hmm. So it's so powerful seeing you talk about that with others on your mediums.
Yeah. And I know, there's a level of privilege that I think we're all aware of, right? Of like finding your dream job or being able to only think about how do I want to make an impact, or, even if, the privilege that comes with having like multiple job offers, like that's not even that common. Sometimes you really are only faced with one job offer and you do need to take it. And that is the right decision for you. But I think the reason the why is so important is because inevitably, no matter where you land, whether it was the only job that you had to take and you needed to take that, or if it was a job that you chose, there are going to be challenges, right? Like there's going to be adversity 3 months in, 6 months in, 9 months, 12 months, 5 years, like inevitably, whether it's burnout or just it being a complex job that you're in, whether it's, social dynamics with your coworkers, something is going to raise itself into your daily experience. And you need to be able to come back to that why. I remember even going into my first technology job, asking one of the people interviewing me, like, what keeps you here? What gets you excited about this role? You've been there for a few years. Like, what is it about this place, this industry, this team that really keeps you going? And he was really honest with me. He was like, I want to be a dad. And the financial implications of having this job allows me to really like make a mark on my life and make a mark on my finances, knowing that one day I'll be able to support my family. And that really drives me forward. And coupled with like, I'm just interested in the industry. But, when things get hard, it's that kind of like, why don't just want to be rich? Like I want to have money because it enables so much in my life. And I think just that mindset shift is a lot more sustainable and healthy and just like a better foundation. So I don't mean to say all those things to be like, you need to have a dream job, so you need to know exactly what it is that you want to do with your life. It's more like, what's that concrete foundational piece that's going to kind of keep you going when things get hard?
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. So how do you suggest people get there? How do you suggest they figure out what their why is essentially?
I think It can change. Like, I think that's kind of a freeing thing. So it's really not like the why of like your entire life. It's just like that next right step. So it helps to kind of think a little bit in the future, but not really overwhelm yourself. So like, what kind of person do I want to be? If you were to visualize your ideal day, if you were to reflect on like, what are the activities in or outside of work that give me a lot of energy, and really reflect on that. Like, I know for myself, I thrive talking to people. I thrive blending like strategy with creativity. And I love both, but I don't want to only do a creative job. I don't only want to do a strategy job. And so finding those kind of breadcrumbs, which you could do through journaling and workbooking your way through your past. You can do that through visualization and meditation and reflecting on your future. And then you pair those into, okay, what does that mean for me in the present moment? So for instance, like when I was kind of reflecting, I knew I actually did find a lot of energy when I was going to meetings and when I was engaging with my colleagues. So I know, like, I don't want to do just, solely an email job or solely something that's independent. It's so autonomous that I'd never have a meeting with another individual. That was really important to me. So when I looked at job descriptions, it was, is this highly collaborative? Is this interdisciplinary? Is this going to have face time and intersect with lots of different teams? That was a bullet point in a job description that would be like, okay, ding, ding, ding. Like, that is something that would feel my soul. Right. And then on the flip side, as much as it's important to the field of marketing, like, I don't actually get energized by the science behind marketing, the data, the analytics. It's important. It's incredibly important. It's the future of marketing. And so that actually told me a lot about, well, maybe I don't want a career in marketing after all, like I thought I did. And it was only because I knew myself and I knew that's really not what excites me. It's not where my strengths lie. Can I do it? Sure. But let's say I'd accepted an entry-level job, that was like a marketing analytics coordinator. I think my soul would have died. I think I would have, regardless of if it ticked a lot of the boxes. Like, I know enough about what I do and do not want to know that that's probably not the role for me. So you just lean in, you lean out. It's never going to be perfect. I mean, it's taken me several tries to land on a path where I feel that gut feeling of like, I think this is at least it for a little bit. Like, I'm going to stay here for a little bit. But it'll change as you grow, as it should.
Yeah, I think, that's a really good segue into one of my next questions, which is, when you are in a job already, when do you know it's time to leave a job? When do you know it's time to take that step?
That it's such a tough position to be in, I think, and every single person's situation is going to be different. I think there are some themes, right? There's been at a company growing for, let's call, this is an arbitrary number, but let's call it like 3 to 5 years. And there are a lot of other experiences that you're really excited to try. And those are simply not going to be possible in your company. And it could be like, you want to try different industry. You want to try an adjacent role. You want to grow in a role, and that growth isn't necessarily going to be possible at your current company. There's lots of different reasons why, but maybe like you're happy now, like nothing's wrong now, right? You're successful. You could stay, but you just feel that gut feeling after having really exhausted your options that whatever it is you're dreaming of doing isn't necessarily going to be here soon. I would say that's a really good time to start casually looking. And it's a great time because you're not going to be coming from a desperate place, right? You're not desperately looking for a new job. You're curious about what's possibly out there. And I think that's probably the most common thing I see. And that's a lot of like what successful people who are now that I'm talking with on a daily basis, that's a lot of what they've done. They really stick it out for 3 to 5 years. They make their mark. They learn a lot about the company, and then they go and they try something else. I would say what I've experienced and what's definitely been kind of I don't want to say it's like the only theme of the Great Resignation, but I think what's really like risen to the surface is just that, like, maybe it hasn't actually been that long, but you know that whatever situation you're in is not serving your mental and physical well-being. If it's incredibly toxic and like dangerously toxic, get the heck out of there, quit without a backup plan. Like, that's the only time that you should quit without a backup plan. In my experiences, it was usually this very slow drip that one day, like a straw broke the camel's back. And I was like, I've got to get out of here. And it doesn't even matter that I haven't been here a year. Like I can't really breathe. Like I'm not really myself anymore because of this job. In those situations, I think it's really important to take a look at the outside factors to your job. How is your sleep? How is your health and fitness? How is your water intake? Your food? I'm no nutritionist, right? But like take a look at those puzzle pieces that go into your mental and physical well-being. If all of those seem like they're in check, then maybe, yeah, it's just your job. If every single one is not able to be in check because of your job, that's also a sign that it's your job. So it's kind of a range, and it's really up to anybody. But I think it's always a good idea to keep your LinkedIn updated and to be having like authentic informational conversations with individuals that you find really inspiring, just because you'd never know a year down the line, something could come through organically that causes the right shift as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow. I'm just like
information overload.
I know. I mean, as a podcast host, just like hearing such a good answer and being like, oh, I don't even know what to say after that. Like, I'm speechless. When someone does decide to leave their job and they're searching for a job, now you've had a lot of experience talking with a bunch of people, whether it's from TikTok or LinkedIn or even your podcast, all that. What are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen people make in that job search?
Oof, I love this question. Throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks. I would say a lot of people or doing nothing and saying, I'm stuck. I think both come from the same place, which is like, everything is against me. It's never going to work out. I'm not worth anything that I'm applying for. I'm just, I'm hoping somebody's going to take a chance on me. And when you come from that position, you're very much succumbing to the external forces on your own life and your own career. And I cannot even tell you the amount of times I've heard people say, like, I've been applying to 100 jobs in all these different industries and all these different companies and all these different roles. I just don't even know. Like, I don't know what I'm qualified for. Or I hear, like, I'm miserable in my job. I don't know what I'm doing. Here's my resume. Here's my LinkedIn. I just feel stuck. Nothing's working. I don't know what I'm doing. And their resume and their LinkedIn is like all over the place, or it's vague, or it's sparse. It's just a discombobulated assortment of what they're sort of doing. I mean, it tells no story. And I think that it's the worst mistake you can make, because your job when you're going through the job search is for that recruiter who's speaking with you to close their laptop, call up their boss and say, I found them, right? Like I found them. It's it. Here we are. This person is so qualified. They're so interested. Their energy just blew through the screen. I can't wait to introduce them to the next individual in this hiring process. That is your job when you're getting on the phone with a recruiter. And so many people just think of, I don't know how to put this. They think of themselves. They think of their situation. It's very like inward facing. So you throw a lot of things out into the universe. And then when somebody talks to you, you just you come across a little bit like disengaged, not passionate, not educated on why you're applying to what you're applying to. You're just focused on, I need a job. I need you to take a chance on me. And the way we can like flip that narrative is doing a lot of research up front. And this is why I talk about going back to that why, like the reflection piece. What's happening? Where are you at? Why are you looking for a change? What do you want to go do? What gets you excited? There's probably going to be a lot of different things, right? But there's going to be a story that's the foundation of all of those things that you can always go back to. It's probably not 100 things. It's like maybe 3, right? Like I could go into the crypto space. I'm really excited about that. I could go into mental health and healthcare. I could go into technology. And here's the reasons why those are really exciting to me. And then when you're talking to somebody who's a recruiter at, say, a health tech startup, you have a very clear story as to why you're really interested in that industry and that company. And you could be talking to 10 of those companies and they have no idea, but they just know that you have this foundational interest. And when you come at it from that way, not only do you seem more confident and you seem more engaged, you actually are more confident and more engaged. And so as you proceed through that interview cycle, you'll have authentic questions that you can ask. You'll genuinely want to get to know the person on the other side of the screen and ask them questions about their experience, which comes across amazing in an interview. And the people that walk away from the screen will know confidently this person has what it takes to do the job and they're interested in it. And it's a win-win on both parties. So that was a lot. That's my spiel. It really gets me fired up.
Yes, it's actually super interesting because through your LinkedIn group, I joined to like help people where I could to give advice.
Yeah.
And I met up with someone who I gave kind of like a LinkedIn/resume review. And I was like, I don't know, I've never really reviewed LinkedIn's, but like I have experience, I'll do it. And I met up with her and she gave me the spiel of like what she's interested in, why she wants to change jobs, whatever. And I was like, none of this is on your LinkedIn. Like,
Right.
you're so passionate about this, but I don't get that from your LinkedIn. Like, you are a totally different person right now. So I was
Right.
like, this thing you just said, this sentence, put that in your bio. Like,
Yeah.
I need recruiters to know that. And that's how you're going to get a job. And I think she ended up getting a job. I don't remember what it was in, but I was like, yeah, she made those changes to her LinkedIn. I was so happy to see that.
Yes. Yes. I mean, my mom always told me growing up, like half the battle is showing up. And I think that like one of the ways that that has really manifested itself in my life and something that I always tell my coaching clients, it's one of the most profound mindset shifts I ever made was to say what it is that you want to do out loud, right? Like if you really want to be a writer, call yourself a writer, talk about writing, start a blog, talk about the blog, post about it, right? Like if you want to be in technology, if you want to be in healthcare, if you want to be an entrepreneur, like be a part of those conversations, call yourself a member of that community. Besides like a particular list of fields that require graduate degrees and PhDs, I can promise you there is a wide array of career paths and disciplines that you are allowed to step into without having like massive amounts of education to back your experience. I know, like we talked about, you kind of mentioned like the Passages project, like I knew that I wanted to do brand strategy and I wasn't getting that on my resume. I was asking for it at work. I had really tried to tailor my internship experiences to lean on brand strategy. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that that's what I wanted to do as the next right step for my career. Starting Passages was this opportunity on a silver platter to be a brand strategist and to employ all of the disciplines and practices that I was reading about and studying. I talked about it. I showed the difference it made. And I can tell you now that I'm outside of the process. When I was interviewing to be a brand strategy consultant, they couldn't give two craps about my past experience. They only wanted to ask about Passages because it was this experience that showed like, I kind of know what I'm doing. I just don't have a company who's given me this title, but I love what I'm doing. So anyways, I get really excited about this because I'm like, that's a mindset shift, you know, like it's okay to say out loud what it is that you want to go do.
Yeah. And like, even when you were a podcaster saying like, I'm a podcaster now, I don't know what I'm doing, but like, I am a podcaster.
Totally. Yes.
And so actually, you've talked about this a lot on TikTok too, of like side projects being really helpful for standing out in your career, in your job search. And I wanted to kind of jump into LinkedIn strategy since, as I mentioned in the intro, you're a diehard LinkedIn enthusiast. So I know you love that title. So how have you, Chloe, used LinkedIn to get jobs?
Oh my gosh. Today I added it to my TikTok bio too, because I was like, if somebody comes to my TikTok page, they need to know what this is about. Like we're coming on TikTok to talk about LinkedIn.
Wait, you literally said diehard LinkedIn enthusiast.
No. But I said I talk about LinkedIn a lot, LOL, just to mentally prepare. Yes, I love LinkedIn. I always have. I think it gets a bad rap in terms of like these sleazy, the feed of LinkedIn is questionable, right? But the power of LinkedIn is in the search function, in being able to directly connect with anybody in their career who is on LinkedIn. CEOs, CFOs, C-suite are on LinkedIn. Interns, anybody who's in like the service industry pre-college, right? They can be on LinkedIn. It is a platform that is open and available to any individual. And we all have work that we have to do. We all have to make money. So all of us should be on LinkedIn. I love it. And it can be a really positive and uplifting space, right? Like it's not like social media. It's kind of like Pinterest in that like the power is in search. And so what you want to be able to do on LinkedIn is be searchable. And so my biggest hack for LinkedIn is to use it, like leverage there's so much functionality to your profile, right? Like there's an about section, you can add featured posts, you can build out your experiences. Your mind would be blown at the amount of word count that you can use to talk about your experiences, to talk about yourself, education, volunteer opportunities, skills and assessment, groups and companies to be interested in. You can connect with people. You can also follow some people if they consider themselves a LinkedIn creator. Obviously, LinkedIn Premium gives you a lot of other functionality, but even the free version gives you so much. And I think being able to leverage the entire platform is my first tip, simply because some people don't even have like the basics. And the basics are like a headline, like what do you do? What do you want to do? What are you interested in? You can do a lot more than just your exact job title. There's a lot of word count there. So I tell people to build that out because it's searchable. Your about section, I think it can be a paragraph, it can be multiple paragraphs, it can be a sentence, whatever you feel accurately summarizes where you're at in your career, what excites you, so that when a recruiter reads that, or any individual who wants to connect with you, they get just that elevator pitch of who is this person? What are they about? What are they interested in? Experiences. I know a lot of people, like especially young people, get really intimidated on your resume and on your LinkedIn, being like, I don't have that much experience, but there is nothing stopping you from including side projects, internships, volunteer opportunities, if they brought relevant experience that you can pull into your career. I have passages on my experiences section. I have TEDx from when I was in Georgia Tech on my experiences, because it was relevant. The things that I did there are the same things I would do in a job. It just happened to be for a school organization. So anyways, build all of that out, and then I could go for hours. So I'll stop there, but that's my first one.
I feel like you need a course. Have you ever thought of creating a LinkedIn course? Because that would be amazing.
Oh, I appreciate that. I've thought about it. I feel like right now there's a lot of like hate being thrown around on social media of like, okay, anybody ever who wants to create a course is creating a course and then just like monetizing it. So I'm trying to like play the field on what's going to be most relevant, but I have dabbled with the idea. I just haven't done it yet.
Okay, I think you should really consider it.
Thank you. That's a boost to my morale.
Good. Yeah, those are all good tips. And especially that bio. Like I feel like in college, I was always really intimidated to put anything in my bio. So for the longest time, I didn't have anything. And then at one point I was like, what the heck? I'm just going to like be myself. So there's like jokes in my bio. There's puns in there. I even, for some of my volunteer experiences, I have jokes. Like I used to volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. And I have like one bullet point that's like fell off a seesaw too many times to count, like something like that, which is so stupid, but like
your personality.
that's who I am. Yeah. So I just like throw it in there because, if someone's going to hire me, they should know what they're getting.
Yes. Yeah. And people read that. The statistics still stand. Like no recruiter is going to read every single word on your LinkedIn profile, right? But going back to your original question, like the power of LinkedIn is that search function. Like there are recruiters who have access to incredible filtering tools that will find a profile that has, the right criteria for what they're looking for. If you haven't included the right words on your profile that show that you know this area, you're not going to show up. So even something as simple as I included that I was an associate consultant at my last job. My title, I don't think was consultant. I think it was associate, but including the word consultant included me in all these new searches when recruiters they only had that bias of looking for people who have been in consulting to do the role. That's exactly how I landed this job, because the recruiter reached out to me noticing that I was a consultant. So it's really like thinking outside the box, doing a lot of research on what are those keywords, words, and phrases that you're seeing for the quote unquote dream jobs that you want to do next? And are those visible on your resume and your LinkedIn, so that a recruiter searching for somebody who does that on LinkedIn will see you?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I've never thought about that, like including a consultant even, because I'm technically a consultant too, but for the longest time I've had, just software developer, but I am a software developer consultant, so I've never thought about that. How do you suggest people figure out what those keywords are?
Yes, let's get into it. So let's talk again about research. I think once you have a semi-clear sense of the general direction that you want to go. You'll know where you stand in terms of like leveling. So are you entry level, associate, mid-senior, et cetera? A general sense of the industries that you really want to be in. You might have a few companies that kind of come top of mind. I also recommend researching a lot about what are other hot companies in this space that you might not have heard of. Just today, I was working with a client of mine who was really dead set on like banking and consulting because she really wanted to lean into like strategy and business and operations. And I brought up to her, have you considered tech? Have you considered like hot growth markets in tech, for example, crypto, Web3, et cetera? She was like, oh, I've never thought of that. And so then we started looking at like, what are these hot companies? You come across the Coinbases of the world, the Gemini, the OpenSea. And so like doing that little bit of research gets you a bigger picture of all these different companies. So then you go to LinkedIn or you go to the company's website in general, you go to their careers page or their jobs on LinkedIn. You use the filters. So filter based on what you're looking for. Are you looking for a certain location to be remote? Are you what level are you? Are you only looking for entry level? I maybe wouldn't do keywords right away, just so you can get like a large sense of the picture. And then you can always filter more down by keywords or specific titles that you're looking for. And what will inevitably happen as you do this over and over and over again. So in her instance, we were looking at, business analyst or business strategist or business strategy associate or something along those lines. You start to pick up on what is this jargon that people are using. And then you look back at her LinkedIn. Does she have the word business in there? Does she have the word strategy? Does she say that she's really excited about her career as an associate? What are those words? And then you look into the jobs themselves. You read the job description. How profound, right? But seriously, there's no need to like study it with a microscope, but I do think that taking a deep glance at job descriptions over and over and over again gives you a very broad picture of the themes that these companies are looking for. You'll start to see the patterns. Is there certain qualifications that, do I really need 2 years of management consulting experience to even be qualified for these entry-level roles? If so, I'm going all in on management consulting and we are going to get that on my resume. Is there certain technical skills that they're really looking for? Is there, are certain companies in certain industries caring about something more than something else? All this be said, you'll start to see the patterns. And what I always recommend to my clients is to keep a list of these words and phrases and then go back repetitively to the living, breathing document that is your resume and that is your LinkedIn profile and see how you can weave in that language. You can copy and paste every now and then if it's like directly relevant, but otherwise, like, is there another way to tell the story of what you did that leans on the exact language that you're reading about in the job descriptions for the companies that that you'd one day want to work for? So that's where we need to go. And then we apply. And inevitably, you're going to learn things along the way. You can always tweak your LinkedIn. You can always tweak your resume. I will say I have never gotten the first job that I've ever applied for. So always go back and keep looking at that document. You'll learn things along the way and you can tweak, but that's LinkedIn.
I know you also mentioned this is for the resume too. Do you do the thing where you kind of have a master resume and then you kind of create one specific to a job? Because I know I've heard that advice before and I've done it when I was back in college.
I think it's good advice. It's advice that I currently give. I didn't do it. I never did it. But I will say, like, I never had like 10 job offers at one time. Like I probably had a handful, but I wasn't like hyper competitive. So I think it's really helpful, especially if you aren't 110% confident in the path that you want to go on, which I would say is most people. So like you might have a broad sense of, I could go into marketing, I could go into PR, I could go into brand strategy. I don't really know enough about each of these to be confident that I only want to do PR, et cetera. So you build a resume that just slightly tailors itself to what that industry is looking for. There might be different statistics that you highlight. There might be different projects that you highlight. There's going to be different language that you lean on when you're, in that objective or that summary at the top of your resume. You are looking for a PR program versus a marketing program, right? So there's ways to be like slightly more explicit. I think it's helpful. I've never worked with an applicant tracking system. Does it make a huge difference? I'm not sure, but I think it can't hurt, especially if you are kind of going back and forth between a few industries. Just make sure that you are always using the right one when you are applying. So have whatever system you need in place to make sure that you're using the right one at the right time.
Pro tip. Send the right resume. Oh, okay. So when someone is building out their LinkedIn profile, besides, putting keywords in and, trying to show who you are, showing your personality, are there any other tips you have for people to stand out to recruiters?
Say that you're open to work. There is a functionality where you can filter and say that you are open to work or open to changing jobs or maybe open to changing jobs, and only recruiters are going to see that. Definitely do that if you haven't already. It's probably not going to make or break it, but it makes it a lot easier for a recruiter to add you to their list. I think in general, like having as much built out about your experiences, simply because a lot of titles are really vague. So just because you were, an analyst one summer, right? Or, a banking associate intern, like that doesn't necessarily tell the full picture of what it is that you worked on. It's probably more relevant the larger you go in your career, right? Like people want to know, okay, just because you were VP, like VP of what and VP of product of what, it's a lot more relevant down the line, but it's still really helpful just so that somebody gets a really full picture of what it is that you're bringing to the table. My biggest piece of advice after you have all of that foundational information set is to network. I know we haven't talked about it yet, but it is so easy to put together a small template, short word count. Hi, my name is blank. I'm currently blank. I've applied to X job at this company. Do you have availability in the next few weeks to grab 15 minutes over the phone so I can ask you a few questions? If not, have a great day. Would love to be connected. I promise there's a way to put that into a very short amount of word count. And you go and you research and you find people with either the title that you're trying to apply for, the title right above what it is that you're applying for, or in best case scenario, the recruiter who's hiring for those roles. Sometimes it's hard to find them. Sometimes if you don't have premium, it's really hard to find them. So if not, it's always helpful to connect with somebody in the organization. The best way to get your foot in the door is just talk to somebody who's already there, seeing, can you help pull me in? And that's how I have landed multiple of my jobs. So that's probably the next step to get in front of a recruiter, is get in front of somebody.
Okay, that's like level 2.
Yes, we have gone to, this is LinkedIn 201.
The next course that you'll make.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And I think I feel like such a TikTok fangirl. I know you've talked about that on your TikTok too, where people were like, well, what do you even ask them? And I think you said like, you should have questions, like if you're interested in this job, you should have questions. But I think the biggest thing that I know is, now being in the industry for a while, is I can refer people, and like I can refer people and literally say that I don't know this person, but I connected with them on social media or something. Mm-hmm. And they still get in front of the recruiters before other people. And I get a referral bonus if they get recruited. So like most people want to refer people because you get money for it.
Yes. That's like news to people, like you don't want to bother somebody. And sure, like let's not go message like people who are VP and above, maybe like, let's leave that. But for somebody who's maybe at your level or one level above you, maybe even a manager or mid-manager, they're going to have an ounce more time. They'll have a little bit of skin in the game because they will be interested in that referral bonus. They probably have been in your shoes not that long ago, so they can really speak to the young professional experience at that company. You can vibe with a person a little bit easier, right? It can be a little more casual. You can get your personality through. And then, yes, it is a win-win. If the conversation goes well, if you authentically now do want this job, you do want to work for this company, there is no harm in asking at the end of that call, hey, look, I really enjoyed our conversation together. I loved getting to know you. I'd love to stay in touch. And if there's anything I can do, definitely let me know to help you in your career. I'm not sure what your company policy is. Is there any chance that you'd be open to helping me as I go through the application process? Is there a referral program? I'd love to meet somebody else. Is there anybody else you can introduce me to so I can ask more questions to somebody else? And you just make it very authentic. They know why you're talking to them. You know why they're talking to them. There's no reason to like beat around the bush, but be kind, be straightforward, be respectful of their time. And usually, yes, people get paid if you get hired. So it's an incredible win-win situation.
Yeah, I feel these are great templates. I think what I'll do is I'll end up typing this out and maybe putting a doc in the show notes of like, these are the things Chloe said, do them. Your LinkedIn, your whatever, reaching out to people, having those calls. This is all such great advice. One of the last questions is there anything else that you think people should know about LinkedIn when they're searching for jobs?
I think a really underrated component to LinkedIn is engaging on the feed. And I mentioned this earlier, but following people. I'm not sure the specifics of whether or not everybody can be followed. You might just have to have declared yourself a creator on LinkedIn in order to be followed, but I promise it's out there. Following allows you to see what somebody is posting and engaging on the LinkedIn feed without being directly connected to them. And that is a really incredible opportunity to see when new jobs are posted and people who actually have skin in the game on that new position are usually engaging on that post. So whether it's the hiring manager, the recruiter themselves, a colleague saying, come work with me, here's a new job. That's really helpful for you to see, because then you can comment on that post. You can say, hey, so-and-so, I've just applied to the role and connected with you here on LinkedIn. I'd love to learn more about it. I'm really interested and excited. Something along those lines. It's just an extra step to make authentic connections. You can follow companies that you're really interested in so that when news hits, you know what's going on and you can speak to that in your interviews. You can follow influencers and just get generally inspired by what it is they're posting about. There's a lot of opportunity. And I also think from a personal side, posting on your LinkedIn feed, it's not going to make or break your career success, but I think it can't hurt. If you see really interesting news, share your opinion about it. Have a point of view on what's going on in the industry that you're applying for, in the companies that you're really excited about. Like I said, is the recruiter going to see that post and be like, yes, we should hire this person? Who knows? But it's a really great way for you to garner conversation, get your name out there. And then that confirmation bias is going to lock in when somebody sees your name that you've applied to their job. Oh, they're really active on LinkedIn. They post all the time about this space. They probably know a little bit. I'd love to speak with them, and I'm really excited about that. So that's a tip. And then one last tip. Again, LinkedIn search bar, right? It's just an empty search bar. You can search anything in there. Search the words hiring. Search the words hiring now. Search keywords for the jobs and the companies that you're really interested in. Look up company plus recruiter to see if anybody shows up that you can connect with. Don't be afraid of typing into that search bar what it is that you're looking for and seeing what pops up. I promise there's a lot to the platform, and I could talk for days, but there's LinkedIn 301.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to have a whole syllabus created. Anyway, when you were talking about posting, I think something I always find incredible about LinkedIn is how far that reach goes.
Yes.
Because if someone likes your post, then their whole network will see that they liked your post.
Yes.
And so sometimes I'll post about the podcast or something, and it will get hundreds or thousands of views. I'm like, how? It's just LinkedIn.
Right. It's so underrated. Yeah. Especially on that end, from a marketing perspective, if you're working on a side project, talk about it. We're pulling it all together, right? We work on a side project in an industry that we're excited about for our dream job. We connect with a lot of people who are in that industry. And then we talk about our side project and we show the analytics behind it. We show how successful it is. We tag other people in that post. They share it. More people see it. All of a sudden you've gone viral and everybody knows about your podcast. And now you have a job offer.
Yeah. And that's LinkedIn 401. Okay. I have a final question I always ask everyone because this is Blossoming Technologist. So it's about people always growing and still learning new things, even though we're however many years in our careers. So what is one skill that you're currently working on?
Oh, I love that question. Potentially cliche, but I'm really trying to learn how to cook a little bit better. I feel like for the longest time, I've just taken like shortcuts and I put things together in a really basic way. And the reason I think this is relevant is because I find cooking to be extremely meditative and mindful. And I've had my therapist recommend cooking for me, especially being a perfectionist who doesn't do well when things don't go well. I think cooking has been a really great like practice for me to kind of wrap up my workday, obviously like learn a new skill, eat something yummy, but also just like be really mindful and be really present in my body, which inevitably helps me throughout my day. So yeah, any good recipes that are easy for beginners.
Yes. Oh, I have lots of recipes I can send you. I recently moved in with my boyfriend. He loves to cook a lot and I love to cook too, but I often cheat recipes a little bit because there's like certain things where I used to never like onions or like garlic that much. And so I would I'm just not going to put it in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what? You have to put in the onions and the garlic. So now I'm like, learning how to chop onions and buying garlic, like stuff like that. So
yes.
I actually make the recipes the way they're supposed to be made.
Adulting. We love it.
Yeah. I know I said that was the final question, but I wanted to give you a moment if you wanted to plug your LinkedIn group or TikTok or anything. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yes. So I started a LinkedIn group simply because I was garnering so much attention on TikTok, which I was so grateful for. And I had all these people in my DMs asking me very thoughtful questions about their careers. I simply don't have the capacity to answer every single question. So I offered a few tiers of opportunity for folks. So number one is following me on social media. I'm constantly posting stories and experiences and advice and LinkedIn tips and all that stuff, completely free, just really fun. You get a lot of my personality. The LinkedIn group, you can join it at the link in my TikTok bio or in my Instagram bio. It's called Young Professional Career Connects. I accept every single person. We're almost at 10,000 people. I think we like just crossed the 9,000 mark, which like blows my mind. It's full of young professionals who are in your boat, who were just in your boat, who are miles ahead in their career and excited to give back. There's recruiters who are posting about new job opportunities, recruiters who are searching for people. It's just an incredible ecosystem of young professionals. And then I do offer coaching and mentorship calls. So if for any reason you do want like one-on-one bespoke personalized support, you can just go to my website, which is chloebelangia.com. And there's a way to book a session with me. So far, I've worked with people to land interviews at Meta and their dream jobs and incredible salaries, incredible positions. It's honestly life-changing work. And I'm so grateful to be able to do it. So that's my spiel.
Yay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, Chloe, thank you so much for being on Blossoming Technologist. If anyone is looking for a job, like Chloe just said, check out Young Professional Career Connects and also check out Chloe on TikTok. Those will all be linked in the show notes, every single link mentioned. And thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time where we'll continue blossoming together.